We are joined by Fox Sports senior NBA analyst Ric Bucher. Welcome, Slick.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good to be here.
Very, very big nights. But, Paul, we'll start with you. Former Finals MVP. How impressive was the Thunder's title run?
It was very impressive because when you get the pressure in the preseason from start to finish and you fulfill those expectations because, you know, the Celtics were probably the preseason favorite, I believe, and then as the season went on, everybody was like, okay, see, and now the pressure's on them, the youngest team in the league. They had to follow up what they did last year, having a #1 seed, coming back with a #1 seed, going to a Game 7 against Denver. That was impressive, the way they handled that series. Minnesota, who everybody was calling Ant-Man, the next face of the league, took care of them. And then you get to the finals against a gritty, well-coached Indiana Pacers team who pushed them to 7, who everybody said, hey, this could go either way. Even I was saying that. Anything can happen in a Game 7. And for them to have the fortitude, for them to have the maturity. I mean, this got to be the most mature young team I've ever seen, truthfully. Like, even we were just saying this, I'm looking at Shea celebrate. It was like, you know,
he wasn't really celebrating.
It wasn't really celebrating. It was like, you know, it just doesn't feel real. And, you know, it's just all the hard work.
They were very composed in their celebration.
Like, you're supposed to be out there like, we got it. Like, we did it, man. We made it, man. Anything's possible. You know, all the celebrations over the years, and he's just like, you know, it just doesn't feel real. Like a 26-year-old, for me to see that, I'm like, whoa. That's telling me he's not satisfied.
No.
He's going to enjoy this feeling this summer. He's going to put the work in to try to do this again. And that's what I kind of got out of this. But the run was very impressive. Hats off to the Thunder. And just looking forward, youngest team in the league, cap room, which they're going to have to fill that up pretty soon with the extensions coming up. Coaches, I have my doubt about Coach. Pulled through with his adjustments. So hats off to the Thunder. This could be a making of a dynasty. I'm not even going to lie to you. It's definitely got the infrastructure for it, and I've said it before.
Yeah, the success has come pretty fast. What is it, six years for him now?
Yep.
So that's fast.
6 years in.
6 years in.
6 years in OKC.
So you're not really going to see the tears and all that yet. If he'd have pushed it to 10, then you're going to see because he was fighting. This is just easy. Like, you think about it. It's easy and impressed. But you got to be impressed with a team, like Paul said, from wire to wire. They're the first team, 69-plus wins to finish the deal. The Bulls did it back in 96, 97.
68.
You know, 68. So when you think about the plus side of it, including the playoffs. You know, they have the largest point differential in NBA history at 12.9. Highest turnover differential in postseason. They created a lot of turnovers, especially against Indy. Indy was just, hey, we're going to help you reach that milestone. Second youngest NBA championship team.
Yeah.
It's the last 70 years. Fourth team to record 84 wins in the regular season and the postseason. I mean, you got to think, man, because most of the time it feels like teams that have them 68 or 60s or whatever, and they're the #1 team, they don't finish the deal. They somehow stumble up along the way, but it didn't happen to OKC, and he didn't shrink. All he continued to do was grow. And then the rest of his teammates grew. If you look at Chet, you mentioned it in our Man on Monday, Joy, he stepped up, especially on the defensive end and protecting the rim, something that we need as a Laker. We need a rim protector. I just want to throw that out there to you. All right, I just want to throw that out to you, Rick. We got to get us one of them dudes that can help us a little bit.
I'll get right on that.
But no, it was impressive. It was. I didn't think it was going to be fun to watch, and I have to admit, it turned out pretty damn fun to watch, right? I mean, it really did, because I was like, yeah, okay.
We're all about accountability on this show.
Yeah.
Were you not entertained? You were?
No, I was.
I know.
But I actually appointment watch. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was one of those deals where it was appointment watch. It was like, okay, 5 o'clock, I got to go. You know, I got to get there. I can't mess around with y'all right now. I can't. I got to go home. And I didn't think I was going to be that way. I was just like, yeah.
Can you give me a little corporate key doing Shea?
No, Paul, no, I ain't doing that.
No, it just doesn't feel real. Won the championship, it just doesn't feel real.
They're very composed.
No, he's young.
That's when you should be the most excited. This is what you play
Paul,
for.
okay, so check this out, though. That's true. But when you've been in the league, as long as you have played, as long as I played, and we finally got that chip, we was like,
That 10
Man, it's almost over with in our careers.
Right.
Yeah.
He got a whole nother 10 years to go.
I'm not asking for tears like we got from
Well, not
LeBron
even
James
tears,
in
not
Miami.
necessarily tears, but more enthusiastic,
I would have
so to speak.
expected that.
It's hard when you're this young.
You know what I think it is? You know what I think it is? And this is what I found so impressive, is that they went from...
Will you
going,
continue to
keep
talk?
going, Rick.
Please, Rick, just go. It's Monday.
What I found so impressive is that they had never been anywhere close to this before. I think that's maybe why it seemed sort of like a surprise, as opposed to, I've been trying to get this for so long, thank God I finally got it, is because, and again, this is what impressed me the most, like they'd never been out of the second round. And they'd been to the second round once.
But they was.
And then knocking for how long? They knocked once, nobody answered.
But
They
then-
knocked again.
But then at the same time,
okay, we're here.
Think about what Sam Presti did. He said, okay, I need to go make some moves. I make some changes. And one of the first things he did, he went and got Alex Caruso. Said, I need a veteran kind of, guy that can help us on both ends.
Yeah,
Leadership.
but a role player.
Yeah, but you can be a role player and still help inside the locker room and on the floor.
For sure. Isaiah Hartenstein was a nice addition too, right?
Killer move.
Key additions. But these were supplementary pieces to a core that had never come close to this. As Shai Gilgeous-Alexander winning MVP in his 6th year as a Thunder and 8th year in the league, and then going all the way through 2 Game 7s against the Denver Nuggets, a prior champion, and having their back against the wall a couple times where they were behind in a series, and they were corporate through the whole thing. Shai wasn't just like this at the end. He was like this through the whole thing. Yeah, we're down 2-1. We just need to come back and get back to our game, and we'll be fine. I mean, he was an accountant. He was just...
It's so crazy. He showed more emotions in the loss. That one loss to Denver when he was walking through the tunnel smiling. Remember that? He showed more emotion during the loss because, like, he knew something.
Yeah.
That was
Well,
crazy.
clearly he did.
Let me ask you this, though.
Yeah.
Because you covered the league for the last 40 years or whatever. and I consider Shai an international player, Do they have emotions when they win big, though, the international players? Because I don't remember.
Sure.
Like,
you don't remember Jokic?
No, I don't remember.
I think Jokic might have had more, expressed more when he got back home than he did over here. But
No, Jokic gave us no emotion. He even left the trophy. Do you remember that?
yeah, he left. He wanted to hurry up and get back, right?
No.
He wanted to get back.
but behind the scenes, you remember him getting tossed into the cold pool or the cold tub?
They dove into I remember. They dove into the.
So I think there was more
we
of
need
that
to see it
behind
on
the scenes.
like that speech,
And
that
Giannis-
initial speech after. That's where you want to see it.
Yeah,
But
the
Giannis too.
The Giannis,
Giannis gave it. Giannis gave it to us.
I was just going to attribute that to maybe from an international standpoint, they just don't
You
celebrate
just
the
wanted
same.
to see some
it's too-
tears. We did not get enough tears last night, guys. They haven't suffered enough for this championship.
Because all the champions that I've seen, but most of them, like I said, are probably a little bit older.
Well,
and they
maybe
waited
the
a
younger
long
guys.
time.
Maybe the younger guys are more in touch with their emotions throughout their day, so they don't have to have it all pent up for
that's
one,
interesting.
one interview. I do think also
the Pacers gave us enough tears.
Yeah, I do think also, like the coach said, that they behave like champions. They have this very unique makeup of personalities, of fun, of youthfulness. They have this enjoyment of the game that isn't brash. It's a very
Not at
unique
all.
thing to watch. It's a very joyful form of basketball. They're very good.
It almost feels
And
innocent.
It is. It is. Okay, but that's what it is. It is. And they're great. And they finished what is an incredibly impressive season. No, we can't have it every which way. We can't ask for great basketball. We can't ask for
they won. Let's
consistency.
turn
We
it to
can't ask
ID
for
Network.
maturity and then be like, where's the drama? We'll get plenty of that soon enough. We'll get to the big trade in just a minute. But I think they've had a really, really impressive season. And maybe because there wasn't a lot of controversy, maybe it's because they all get along and they all do their interviews together, and it's Oklahoma City, and they are a little bit unexpected. They haven't been knocking for 2 decades to try and get there, that it doesn't feel that way. But they have had one of the more impressive seasons of all time. I mean, you listed a bunch of different...
look like they celebrating right.
Stats, yeah. I mean, Caruso had to teach them how to...
See, it didn't even look right at first.
Do it.
It's like...
How to open the beers.
Are we old enough to open it?
We've seen them do this on TV. How do they do it exactly?
But it is impressive to have expectations all season long. To come in and Shea be expected to be in the MVP conversation to win it, to then go on and have the scoring title, to then go on and win Western Conference Finals MVP, to win Finals MVP, and to go to a Game 7 with a team that kind of, in a lot of ways, had the hearts of the fans. Like the Pacers, not Knicks fans, obviously, but, you know, the Pacers were this underdog story. We like to root for the underdog. It's not like there was animosity against the Thunder, but it did seem like, you know, everyone was kind of, in a way, rooting for the Pacers.
I think the polls showed that the far greater part of the nation was behind the Pacers than they were behind the Thunder.
Well, we like an underdog story, and that's what the Pacers were. The Thunder were expected to be here. They were expected to have a great regular season. They had the best regular season in the NBA. Shea was in the MVP conversation before the season started. They delivered on everything, but in some ways that really makes it impressive to me. You talk about this all the time, that having expectations is a privilege, but it does also mean that there's a target.
Right.
And that raises the pressure, and especially on a young team that, you know, has Caruso, obviously, but isn't, you know, riddled with veterans who have been there before.
No,
their pressure was a little different than ours, too, because from what I remember, we came in after we did the trades, we had the favorites. I mean, we was on the cover of every magazine. Like, and then people was like, they ain't won nothing. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's why they had already pretty much crowned us before the season started. So that make it like a little more pressure. Yeah. Like, so when you going into a Game 7 for us in the first round, after all of that, you like, whoa, we can't get out the playoffs now.
Where does this put SGA at, Joy, in the hierarchy in the NBA?
Ooh. I mean, I think he's at the top. I mean, he just
of
finished
the new generation of stars.
I'm just talking about like right now when you just look at
it. In the NBA by far.
Yeah.
And he was the league MVP, Western Conference Finals MVP, had the scoring title, and won the NBA championship and NBA Finals MVP, and was great throughout all of those series. Reliable, consistent, and gotten better and made his teammates better.
I think because we haven't seen him struggle over the years, he's not getting as much credit for what he has accomplished.
Well, that's why I asked Joy that question.
I don't really think you need to participate in the Suffering Olympics in order to be great.
Yeah, but I think we're used to that.
Well, he'll have plenty of time to prove himself against the rest of the league.
But
do it again and again.
Struggle, no, like.
Well, because he's so young and they're so young. Sometimes we feel like, you know, even the Celtics, right? The Celtics breaking through and winning that championship because they went to the Eastern Conference Finals, because they went to the finals. So it was like, okay, they've been so close, and then just not getting there, and then they finally, like, there's always like this, like, finally, and the Thunder don't have that.
Right. They were never in the playoffs.
They were good, and now they're
in the playoffs, and then the next year they win it. Like,
but the thing is, they didn't skip steps, though. Like, they beat champions on the way there.
Yeah,
like
people forget they've been in the playoffs for
but they wouldn't
for the last 5 years.
Yeah, but this is the first time. But this is the first time they've been in the Western Conference Finals.
Is this the third year or second year? It's not more than 3 years. And last year was the first year that they got past the first round.
Yeah, they haven't been. It's not like they've been habitually in the finals or Western Conference Finals.
It's probably four of the last 5 because CP3, they went with CP3.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, but that was a different team.
No, that's true, but we just talking about the organization.
That was a different team. I'm talking about with Shea there.
Yeah, well, Shea was there.
They've been to the playoffs for.
Yeah, but Shea wasn't this. Chris Paul was there. It was being tutored at the time.
Should we, before we move on to Tyrese, should we remind everyone of our picks at the beginning of the season?
Why not? I got mine
Who
right.
are you picking for your MVP this year?
MVP, since I said, I'm going to go Shea Gilgeous.
Me too. That's also my choice.
Gilgeous.
I think it will be a harder road through the playoffs this year than it was last year. Obviously, health is something that plays a role for everyone. So we're making these predictions based off of if everyone is healthy. which is why I have the Heat over the Thunder in the NBA Finals. Okay, so it's a little wrong about the Heat, but
Okay.
I had the Thunder in the NBA Finals. We both picked Shea to win Finals MVP.
I had OKC and Boston in the final and Boston winning. But just to clarify, they went to the conference semis last year.
Rick, want to get it right?
Yeah, we should get it right.
They've been to the playoffs 2 years in a row. They had not been in the playoffs the previous 3 years.
Yeah, so they have
Really? They've
The
been
previous
absent?
3 years. So quite a stretch since the Chris Paul
So
Paul
3
was
and
Chris
6.
Paul was there.
Chris Paul was
What's
in the-
that?
So
they've been
three in the last
twice
six.
in the last 5 years.
No.
Yes.
No, that's not
I'm
right.
t-
Because Chris Paul was on the team in 2021. He got to get a new computer, man.
Wait, no, you know the funny thing is I'm sitting here.
The new update.
No, but I'm sitting here looking. No, man, I'm looking at the computer.
Look.
And I'm looking at some of the faces on these dudes. I'm like, them dudes is old. That's Nate
Shea has
McMillan
been to
and
the-
That's not.
That's the Sonics.
Shea has been to
That's
the
their-
playoffs
Oh, I'm
4
sitting.
times.
I'm looking at these old faces though.
So, Rich, Shea has been to the playoffs 4 times, right?
Wait, though, he had
Twice
the
with
wrong
the Clippers. It would have been twice with the
The
Clippers.
computer right there. That's not
Team. He had the wrong team.
I'm looking at the Thunder.
No, you had the wrong team.
No, I didn't have the wrong team.
You just had Seattle up there.
That's because that's where the Thunder came from.
Oh, okay. All right. Because I'm
We're
looking.
talking about the Thunder.
But he got Seattle up there looking at them. I'm like, man, them dudes old. Death is shrimp.
Shea has been.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He need to update.
Shea has been in the playoffs 4 times. The Thunder
That's
have
what
been
I
in the
was-
playoffs
right.
twice in the last 5 years.
Okay.
So
So they're new here.
No. They went to the playoffs with Chris Paul in 2021.
they went
No,
to the
they did
playoffs with
not.
CP3. That's what I thought.
They
Chris
didn't
Paul-
make the playoffs?
No, they did not. In 2021, they did not make the playoffs.
I thought they did.
I
thought they
did
was
too. I
an
just
AC.
thought that off the top of my
Arguing about this.
nose.
All right, let's move on to Tyrese
Gotta get a new
Haliburton.
computer. Are you?
He started hot in Game 7, scoring 9 points in 7 minutes before suffering a season-ending Achilles injury. Heartbreaking to watch. Haliburton had a historic playoff run, hitting a record 4 game-tying or winning field goals the last 5 seconds of the fourth quarter in overtime just this postseason. Also, he set the Pacers franchise record for most assists in a single playoffs. Haliburton started games 6 and 7 after straining his calf in Game 5. But, Rick, should Haliburton regret playing through the injury after sustaining this Achilles injury?
He should not, because I understand why he would want to play and insist on playing, but the Pacers should regret allowing him to play.
Why?
Because of Kevin Durant, because of Damian Lillard, because we've seen this play out before. Not only did they lose him, look, if it was the kind of injury where, okay, you know what, we lost him in the game and we lost the game, fine. But you're now losing him for the entire following season. And so you're running the jeopardy of not only did you not win this championship, but you're putting yourself behind the 8 ball. In fact, take yourself out of the running of competing for the next championship after going to the finals. They have to re-sign Miles Turner as an unrestricted free agent this summer. Benedict Mathurin and a ton of guys are extension eligible the following year. T.J. McConnell is going to be 35 years old by the time that Tyrese Haliburton is playing again. Pascal Siakam is going to be 2 years old. He's going to be 33, 34. Like, you not only risked it now, but you risked all of next season. And after seeing what happened to Kevin Durant, I just think it's the responsibility of the team to say, we've seen how this plays. Like, this isn't a calf injury. In fact, I don't even know that we should talk about it as being a calf injury at this point, because every calf injury turns into an Achilles problem. And I haven't seen a slight Achilles problem. I've seen Achilles tear that results in a guy missing an entire year. So as hard as it may be, as difficult as convincing him not to play might be, you have an investment in Tyrese Haliburton.
I'm just
As a team.
Rick, I'm going to steal something from our meeting.
Okay.
100 of 100 guys
Yeah.
would play.
100 out of 100 guys
Let me
would want to play.
No, they would play if they can. If they can get out of
Okay, if they
And
can.
I'll take
I'm
you
not
just-
giving him a
and
uniform.
you
I'm not
know
letting
this.
him. I'm taking his shoes.
You know this because you know
Play
this.
barefoot.
Yeah.
No, he's just saying
like,
he's taking his shoes so he doesn't go back out on the court.
I know. I'm saying he would go out barefoot.
But he shouldn't regret playing, and neither should the organization. This is an opportunity and a chance for them to do something.
if you know what the possible repercussions.
Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities, A lot of things.
What was the last guy who played with a calf injury and didn't suffer an
But
Achilles?
that's okay. He was good enough to go out on the floor, though, dog. Think about it. Think about this, though. Ronnie Lott cut his finger off before the Super Bowl just to play in the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Think about that.
I know.
You go play if you can, no matter what the consequences are at the end. The organization, the head coach, they need him on the court. They need him on the court. I understand what you're saying
so
about
much for that, because they ain't going to have him on the court.
I understand that. I understand that. But if they lose this game, which they did, and he didn't play, guess what we would be sitting up here saying? Only if they had Haliburton, if he could have played, man, if he could have just play. If he could have just gave him 13, if he could have just gave him 13 points, if he could have just gave him 12, that's what we'd be saying.
He couldn't play.
Listen.
He played 7 minutes.
Rick, Key, Joy, when I left in the wheelchair, I knew there was a possibility I could come back and tear my ACL. That was a possibility because I had a strained MCL.
I thought it was a meniscus.
I had a strained MCL.
But he could have tore it.
I could have further injured it.
Yeah.
But when you have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity,
get him, Paul.
when you know there's a chance you might never have this opportunity again.
Ever again.
And I'm sure they said
Why have we never heard this information? Now you saved this information for this moment?
Well, I'm saving it for my book.
The injury. This injury has
documentary.
taken like 6 different turns.
I gotta say
We
something.
need to add a producer. We need to add a producer cam.
But I'm saying, like,
Why?
I'm sure that's.
You all don't be watching Darnell and Mo's reactions.
I see him.
What this is going on. Okay, what happened? You risked everything.
I could have ended my career going back out there, but I wrapped my knee up and I took that chance. I'm sure they sat Haliburton down and said, listen, this is the risk you're taking. Well, it's 2 games left in the whole season.
It was one game.
Okay, he strained it in game 5.
Yeah.
So you got 6 and 7.
Well, actually, he got hurt in game 3, I think it was, right?
Game 2.
To game 2.
Initially.
But this is the finals.
Yeah.
How many times y'all hear the players say, if it wasn't the finals, then if it was the finals, I would play?
Yeah.
They say that if it wasn't the Super Bowl, if I wouldn't play.
Not every injury risk is equal, though.
Who hasn't played hurt in the finals that got hurt?
I'm looking at Achilles injuries in a different light because you're guaranteed that if it goes,
It's
you're
not a
losing a
guarantee.
whole year.
But that's not a guarantee. He played through it. The way he was moving, the way he went out there, he went out there with 9 points. He got out there, went out there for the 9.7 minutes. Everybody, he good. He good.
There is no other option than playing in Game 7 of the NBA.
No other option.
There is no other option. This is what you play the sport for.
Right.
And looking around the NBA, which we'll get to later in the show, we know, obviously, there's no guarantee that you're going to get another opportunity like this.
Right.
But now, in today's NBA, it is almost guaranteed that you will not get another opportunity like this. And it's Game 7 of the NBA Finals. This is what you dream of your entire life. If you can walk, you're on the court. Obviously, it is a massive risk, and the worst possible scenario happens. But you may never get another opportunity to have that happen. So you have to risk it. It's the pinnacle of the sport. The regret that you would have by not playing in that game would absolutely surmount any kind of pain and suffering from recovering from this injury, which he will recover from. But he will recover from this Achilles injury and play NBA basketball again. That is a guarantee. There is no guarantee that he will ever play in an NBA Finals or a Game 7 of the NBA Finals ever again.
He played in the NBA Finals. And I get from the player's perspective, I would want to play. We would all want to play. Anybody, and the player would want to play.
You would play. It's not.
I am saying from the organization standpoint.
And they wanted him to play. That's why they let him play. Because they have a bet.
Well,
Let me ask you this, though,
You're
Rick.
saying the organization let him
That's a
down?
mistake. I need to protect a player
Protect him
from
for
himself.
what?
As a
From this.
What is this? This is the end. Somebody has to lose.
This is without question. And
they
who's to
have a
say we
better
would have
chance?
won even if he did? If it was available.
But we tried, and you must try. There is no do. There is only try. Like you cannot risk sitting your player. Forget the backlash that we would get. That they would be. Everyone would fire everyone.
Yeah,
fire everyone if you don't
I'm
let
not so
him play.
sure about that.
So they have.
After looking at what happened to Kevin Durant, what's happened to Klay
I can't
Thompson,
worry
what's
about
happened
that,
to
though. I
Damian
can't worry
Lillard.
about that because I'm trying to get a ring.
Yeah.
I can't can't look at somebody else's body, somebody else's injury from another organization when I'm trying to get a ring.
But I want a chance to win. I want a chance to go again.
No, you're not.
I want a chance to go again next year.
No, you don't. You want a chance in Game 7 last night at 5 p.m. when it started. That's the chance.
The only problem you can solve is the one in front of you.
That's it.
You can't predict.
I can't
next
worry
year.
about something 2 years from now.
Right.
I can't. Are they a better team with him on the floor? Were they a better team with him on the floor? Just answer it simple, yes or no.
Yeah, then there's no question.
Okay, so that's why you
we may not even have a planet next year. Like, we're like this, you know? You gotta do what you gotta do right now.
I might leave then.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.